Welcome to Chapter 14, Divorce and Relationship Dissolution. Here is the outline. The divorce divide. The decline in divorce rates does vary by social category. It has declined dramatically for college students, so that's a good thing, whereas less educated men and women have experienced virtually stable divorce rates, which is about 50%. Divorce can also vary by income. People who earn more than $50,000 in a year have a 30% lower risk of divorce than those earning under $25,000. So this tells me that economics plays a big role in who gets divorced. Starter marriages, those that end within the first few years of marriage and usually without children, are pretty high in divorce rates. And then the divorce in later years, called silver or gray divorce, is no longer rare. It's growing. And this is particularly true for the baby boomers that were born between 1946 and 1964. Since we now have legalized same-sex marriages, we will see more divorce rates among gay and lesbian couples, and that rate appears to be about the same as heterosexual couples. Levinger has a model of divorce decisions. He suggests that spouses assess their marriage in terms of barriers to the divorce. In other words, what would keep them from getting divorced. So couldn't afford to live in two separate households, the children keep you together, alternatives to marriage, and then rewards of the marriage. Older adults do have higher rates of being remarried 3 or more times and are more likely to cohabitate or live together after they are divorced with their new partner. This does seem to indicate that the reason older adults choose to divorce is because they have other options to marriage. Divorce fallout is a term you'll see in this chapter, and that refers to ruptures of relationships or a social network that come as a result of a divorce. So if you have friends who are married and do things with those friends after you get divorced, you may not do things with that couple anymore. I can remember when my mother became a widow, she felt awkward continuing to do things with her friends that were couples, but they still included her. So I think this is a difference between divorced couples and those who are widows or widowers. They're more likely to still be included in those friendships. Economic losses for women. Sociologist Lenore Weitzman compared the post-divorce economic decline of women with children to that of the improved standard of living with their ex-husbands. Many of those women have to take on extra jobs to be able to afford things for the children, where the ex-husband doesn't have added expenses. He actually would have less expense, so his standard of living often is improved. Women and their children experience declines in family income between 25 and 51%. Married men experience a decline in family income of anywhere from 8 to 41%, mainly because their partner is no longer bringing in an income along with theirs. It is now separate. However, even if a man's income drops after divorce, so do his expenses. So here's some reasons for the negative effects of divorce on children. Life stress, loss of parents. Instead of living in the same house with both parents, now they have to live with their parents separately and may not even see much of one parent. Parental adjustment. That takes an adjustment and many times affects the children. Economic hardship, we just talked about this, and then parentification, that occurs when especially an older child takes on more adult responsibilities. So now they're having to maybe help provide for the income. They may have to help take care of the younger children, take more responsibility of household chores, but they also might be a sounding board for their parent, as that parent no longer has another spouse in the house, another adult to sound things off with. Perfect pals and cooperative colleagues, those are friends that are in similar situations, and they get together with their families, with each other's families, for holidays, outings, and other activities. Parallel parenting, that is where the parents parent alongside each other, but they don't have much contact, communication, or conflict, so that's a good thing. Co-parenting is when the parents actually cooperate in raising their children and communicate with each other. So co-parenting, the team approach, and that's not the same as joint custody. Joint custody is the legal arrangement of where the children should live and how decisions are being made concerning the children. And we know that factors that affect co-parenting success is when the parents get along with each other. They will mediate rather than have a hostile divorce process. They have a good relationship with their ex-spouse. Here are 3 different slides that talk about the success of co-parenting, so I'll give you time to read these. On this slide, I think the top one, not talking negatively about the other parent, is probably one of the most important things. You've got to be supportive. It doesn't do your child any good when you talk negative about the other parent. If there are some negative things, the child is going to figure that out on their own. That concludes the notes that I wanted to cover. I did find this quiz on the Mind Tap much easier this week, so I hope you will as well, especially after I just filled you in on some important points. Have a great day.